Hi, my name is Darren Veach with Long Building Technologies, and I want to welcome you this morning to our coffee break, where we're going to talk about what we call truly open systems. So that's a topic that's near and dear to my heart as 30 years, almost 30 years ago now, I got into the industry, and I was one of those that managed Puget Sound Naval Shipyard and the control system that was there. We had one control system. Everything was proprietary back then, and the one that we had, whenever we needed parts or service, it came at thousands and thousands of dollars, actually literally above what it really should have cost. So what we did is we went out, got a second control contractor to come in. At least we could have some competitive bidding, but still it was proprietary, and still parts and service went through the roof even to do their stuff. So as time went on, LawnWorks came along and BACnet came along, which is a protocol which opens things up more, but still control contractors are able to, even to this day, be the only ones to be able to service their stuff. So what we are excited about, and I'm excited to tell people about, it has to do with a truly open system from the top down, whereas you don't have to just go to one control contractor. There are multiple contractors around that can work on the Distech system that we rep. So I'm excited about that. So are customers. I even had a customer, school district, say, well, that's just too good to be true, because they're locked in by companies that you have to go to them for parts and service. They're setting the prices. With a truly open system, you have a say in what prices are, because if you don't like the price for parts, you can go somewhere else, which is, I believe, the American way. So we have on board this morning Chris Swanson with Distech. He's an expert in the field of Distech and open systems. And what I'd like to do is bring Chris on. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Darren. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on. I'm Chris Swanson. I'm the regional sales manager for Distech in the Northwest. So I cover the Northwestern states, including the state of Washington, which is probably where most of you are from. And so I'm going to share my screen here and get that open. So when Melissa and Darren asked me to talk on this coffee talk, I said, sure, what's the topic you'd like to talk about? And Darren mentioned open control systems, which I think is just perfect, because Distech is known for having the most open controls in the world. So it's a perfect topic to talk about with you guys. So oftentimes when you hear about open controls, the question is, what is open? What does that even mean? And why is that important to anyone? It's important, it's extremely important to building owners and operators, because open control systems really give them more power over their buildings, right? So if they have an open control system, they have so much more flexibility when it comes to future renovations and expansions, and the ability to go into their controls and modify them. It just really gives them more power over their building. Right? That's the important part for a building owner or an operator. But then, you ask a lot of people, well, okay, even if it were, let me get this out of your way, even if it were, a control system that spoke a different language and was completely locked down, didn't give you any software to do anything with, and you ask them, are your controls open? They're probably going to say yes, because everyone understands that open controls are better for a building end user, building operator, right? But at Distech, we believe there's a lot of different levels and depth to the openness message, right? So we think there's about 4 different levels. We're going to go through each of those and just kind of talk about each one. So at the network level, we are partnered with a company called Tritium. And for those not familiar with Tritium, Tritium makes the Niagara framework. Niagara is basically the software. So kind of putting it in different terms, it's similar to Microsoft. Microsoft is the company. They make the Windows software, and they put that software on various different computer systems, like a Dell or an IBM or a HP computer, right? So Windows can reside on any of those systems. Very similar to the way that Tritium works. They manufacture the hardware the head-end controller that is often referred to as a Jace, and they put the Niagara software on those different Jaces for lots of different control providers, of which Distech is their biggest partner in the world. And Niagara was really developed by Tritium to allow different control systems to communicate better with each other, right? So if you have different brands of control systems in a building, the Niagara framework really just normalizes all that data that is coming up from that system so that those two different control brands can communicate through the Niagara software more effectively. Right? So it allows integration with different systems out there. We just believe that it makes your system more open to partner with Niagara. Then moving downstream to the field level, you've got the different field controllers. These are controllers that might be mounted on an air handler or a boiler or a VAV box. And they typically speak BACnet or LAN. Right? BACnet was a language or a protocol developed many years ago by ASHRAE to be a standard that, if they developed this standard, the hope was that everybody would eventually speak that language and different control systems could talk to each other more effectively. Lawnmark is a company, a third-party company, private company, that did the same thing. They developed a standard, and there's a little fee every time you have a LAN controller, but essentially it provides a standard that folks could develop on. And whether you speak LAN or BACnet, you're speaking an open language. And so we embrace those two languages, and that's what our controllers speak. Now moving down to the software level. So it's interesting to talk about software. If you have a control system out there and on your building, but you don't have access to the software, it really means you can't do anything new. You really can't go in and program a new controller or take over an expansion or make changes, deletions, additions to your system without access to that software. So access to the software is pretty important for a building operator. Right? At Distech, we actually provide our software free and unlicensed to anyone who wants it. Right? So it's very unique out there in the industry. If you're able to get your hands on it at all, oftentimes software from controls providers comes with a steep cost, and it's oftentimes licensed, so it expires and your access to it goes away. So having access to that software is pretty critical in order to finish the circle of openness out there. And then, as Darren mentioned earlier, we also practice open distribution at Distech. So there are multiple Distech dealers or control contractors in any given geography. Okay? So in the Seattle market, the Washington market, there are multiple Distech dealers that have access to the product, that have been trained and certified to work on the product, have the full backing of the Distech manufacturer behind them. And what that means for a building owner is that that person has options. And if they're unhappy with the level of pricing, the competitiveness of the pricing they're receiving, or unhappy with the level of service that they're receiving from their dealer, they can walk down the street and hire someone else. Right? So your existing Distech controls contractor really has to perform at a high level to keep the business that they've got. Because if they don't, that customer has many options. They can walk down and hire someone else to perform the same work. So it's just one more step in the openness statement that we provide. So just kind of touching back on Tritium and Niagara for one minute here. So this is a NIC statement. Now, this is a statement that Tritium actually puts out on their head-end controller, or Jace. NIC stands for Niagara Interoperability Conformance Statement. It's a mouthful, right? But it's really the way that you can specify what you're getting with your Jace. So Tritium allows you to actually order either an open or a closed Jace. They actually allow you to purchase a lockdown closed Jace if you wanted it. At Distech, we only sell open Jaces, but there are other brands out there who will sell and install a closed Jace. Now, what it comes down to is you can see these 4 values here. Essentially, those values relate to whether you have the ability to talk in and out to the hardware, in and out to the software, in a sense. And specifying a 3-letter acronym in this value that would represent one brand, say, means that Jace can only talk to another Jace of the same brand. Right? So essentially, you're locking it down to a single brand. If you put the all in there, that means that you're allowing it to talk to any brand, right? So it's wide open, it's unlocked, it's open with the all. I try and educate folks out there, particularly consulting engineers, to make sure they understand this so that they specify all whenever they can, because we believe it's in the best interest of a building owner to have an open Jace. Okay. So carrying on, about 6 years ago or so, Distech launched the first BACnet over IP-based control line to hit the market. We called it the Eclipse control series. This is it right here. And following along in our philosophy of openness, we decided to program our controllers based on the Android operating system. It was really a widely accepted, very open, non-proprietary programming language that was out there. And we built the Eclipse system on that platform. And what that really means is our controls are wide open, and anyone who can develop an app can talk to it, right? And that language that those apps are developed in is called RESTful API. So what's an API? API it stands for Application Programming Interface. The best way to describe it is to think of, perhaps you've got Uber on your cell phone, right? And that's an app that was developed by Uber. And you see the little map of your car coming down the street towards your house. You don't actually have all those maps loaded into your phone. That's not where they're stored. They're actually stored up in the cloud somewhere. They're actually using Google Maps, and they're borrowing the maps that Google has provided. And an API is just basically a way that different computer servers share data back and forth. So Uber is taking the data that the Google Maps provides, putting it on your phone, giving you a little screenshot of those maps in your area that you care about. And that's essentially what an API does. It shares data back and forth between servers. So we have the ability to use APIs to write all sorts of new creative apps that network and access our control systems. We have free apps that are downloaded on the App Store, but anyone can build an app, and anyone can talk to our controls because they're wide open. And if you think about, in the open message, there's not too many people out there who can program with BACnet, probably a very limited set of people who understand BACnet and what that's all about. But in the world of computer programming and app development, there are millions of app developers out there, millions of people who understand RESTful API. It just really adds to the open message to allow our controls to be wide open, accessible by anyone. Our API standards are published on the internet, and app developers can go on and download them and take a look at how to program and connect and talk to our controls. And that just adds to the openness. And that's, as you think about Distech, I would just say, we have a philosophy of openness that continues to permeate through our controls in every way to this day. That is the open message. So I welcome any questions and any discussion about Distech. Love to hear your thoughts. We've got, I think, 2 more minutes that we have set aside. So, and I'm willing to stay on as long as you guys like to answer questions.
Well, thank you, Chris. This is Darren Veach again. And we do have a chat question that came in. And what we're going to do is there's 1 minute left here in this. And if we go beyond that, we are open to fielding some more questions, everyone. You can send in some chat questions, and Chris would be more than happy to answer those. One chat question that came in was, can you add Distech to one of those proprietary systems that are out there?
Yes. One of the things that Tritium and Niagara did when they developed their platform was they built that with integration in mind, right? That's one of the great things that Niagara really provides. And so they actually have a whole host of different drivers, they call them, which are essentially, you can download and put a driver for Johnson Controls or Siemens or any control system out there they've developed a driver for. And that really allows any Jace to talk to that control system. So if you had, let's just say, an Allerton system out there that you wanted to talk to, you could put the Allerton driver onto a Jace, which is, our Distech controller, and talk to that Allerton system for sure. We call that integration when you're talking to different control systems on a building.
So in order to integrate that, you would need to provide a JACE basically on top of the system, a driver to bring in the old, and then be able to create another branch, let's say, or even if it's IP, bring it in over the Ethernet, correct?
Yeah, either a JACE or having Niagara software in your server. Either way, it provides the same functionality.
Right. So you may just, if you already have a computer or you want to just add a computer, then it's a supervisor software package that would go on. You don't even need a JACE then.
That's right.
Right.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Do we have any, let's see, that ends our 15-minute time interval. So we're going to, if we see any more questions, we'll go beyond this, but I just want to thank you for signing on and watching this this morning. Next week, we have another coffee break. It's going to be on S2 security mobile apps. So that's next Thursday, 10 o'clock, and that's a security topic. So thank you, everyone.